Part of the human experience and the world, especially the world as we know it today, involves anxiety. For some of us, it's debilitating. And for our kids, it can be something that squelches their growth. So how do we help with these moments when we experience kind of the world around us maybe caving in a little bit? How do we help our kids in those moments? Traditionally, there's been a type of behavior therapy that we kind of work with and help kids mature through. But a new group is offering something that actually might be a little bit less invasive and something that we can do at our homes today. So in this segment of the Celebrate Kids podcast, this daily segment, Facing the Dark, Dr. Kathy is going to dive into how we can help our kids, maybe as they're facing anxiety today, or as they're going to face anxiety in the future. This method might be preventative medicine for us. Let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Cook.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, many children who are battling anxiety go through a traditional kind of psychotherapy process called cognitive behavioral therapy. But there's a new form of therapy for anxiety that's centered on childhood independence. Experts behind this pilot study have said that it helps kids combat fears, reduce anxiety, gain confidence, and become more independent. And so they've termed it childhood independence therapy. This independence therapy is a technique that's modeled on the initiative of something pioneered by a group called Let Grow. It's a nonprofit that promotes childhood independence. The premise behind it is encouraging kids to do something new on their own with their parents' permission, but without their parents. Of course, this kind of depends on the age of the child, and it's a natural response to feel that many might not be ready for this kind of therapy, but many experience kind of overcoming their fears of letting go and kind of that doubt that they might have that their kids could actually do the hard thing that they would be pushed to do in this independence therapy. Some are saying that the potential benefits of this are huge, but the researchers found that it's not often kind of developing quicker than cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, Dr. Kathy, you've written a lot about different things on how kids kind of process and understand the world. My favorite book on this topic is your 8 Great Smarts book. You talk a lot about developing smarts in all kids. All of the smarts are kind of present in all kids, and we have an opportunity to develop those with these different kind of kids. Why is kind of developing what I would probably call nature smarts, these smarts where kids kind of go out and actually work on maybe gaining some independence? I think that might be one of the natural ways inside of the smarts, one of the most natural ways of one of the smarts, the nature smarts, to develop kind of a sense of independence. Why is developing that really kind of, in my way of understanding this, kind of helping kids overcome anxiety?
Your conclusion is really interesting, because I would agree with you that if we want children to learn to be independent, confident, and growing in skills that parents are supportive of, but parents aren't observing and there to rescue the kids, that you're right, get outside, right? Where we climb the tree and we dig in the dirt and we try to, jump over a creek, or, build a pyramid of people in the park. And, those kinds of things are what I think of. And you're right. So being outside, I think, genuinely increases the large motor control, which all of us would benefit from getting better at, even adults that sit in their desks all day long. There's a blood flow, there's an energy flow that happens with that, which also increases confidence. And when we develop a skill and we enjoy, and we've got the vitamin D and the sunshine and the wind in our face, I think anxiety is less likely. So I think your conclusion is really good.
Yeah, I think that there's something about like that idea, right? Like getting outside, being active, doing different kind of activities that pushes kids to do things that they wouldn't normally think that they could do. Inside of the world that we kind of live, or kids can sometimes live in the home or in the school, there's less of that. There's less kind of engagement of going outside. And with the rise in anxiety, I wonder if that's kind of directly correlated or connected to the fact that kids just aren't outside as much. And I want to say that there's some kind of link between cognitive development and emotional health with physical activity. Is there anything to that? What are your thoughts on that topic?
Absolutely. We could pull up research right now. You're absolutely right. So body smart children think by movement and touch and tend to be more physically active. But it's also things like handwriting and even pouring a glass of milk and not spilling it. That's a body smart skill. It's not just large motor. It's able to, fish and, throw the line into the lake and hold on to the fishing pole so the fishing pole doesn't go in the lake too. There's so many different examples of being body smart. A lot of that physical activity, and again, it energizes the brain. It activates a part of the brain that is sometimes slow to respond, sometimes inactive. But the more brain that we use, the better off we're all going to be. We have 8 parts because God is so generous, so let's use them all. And I think too that physical activity, there's just an emotional wellness there. I go to the gym and I work out with a trainer, and I'm not able to go consistently because of my crazy, ridiculous schedule. But I miss it when I'm not there. And when I'm there for the physical activity because I need to be able to, lift suitcases and stand strong even with my bad back. And so I'm working on, been there 14 years with my trainer. It's really important use of my time and money, and I'm better off for it. If I go in, tired and concerned, I walk out energized and joyful. And I didn't believe it at first when people said, "Oh, Kathy, it'll be great. You're going to love it." But I'm not going to love this, but I do. And so there's this emotional benefit that we need to talk more about.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We do need to talk about it more. I've heard many times different parents and even like some school people that I know, the people that work in schools that do guidance counseling that kind of talk about preparing our kids for I don't know if it would be the 22nd century now or the 21st century, right? I don't understand how that math works, right? But we have to prepare them for the future. And so we're going to, do more keyboarding, and we're going to do more internet engagement, and we're going to teach them how to make videos and all of these different things where as kids are growing and we're looking to the future, we're preparing them to kind of be in these kind of, I would say, internal cocoons where you're engaging with the world that's out there, the World Wide Web out there, and not so much as much kind of nature. I want to kind of push on that and have you talk a little bit about that. How can we as parents and people who care for kids really kind of simply model what it looks like to engage nature? Because it does have so much impact on how kids develop, understand their place in the world, gain spatial awareness to know that, because this thing happened today, it doesn't necessarily determine all of the things in my future. If I mess up on this math test, I think sometimes if we live in this internal internet world, we think, man, that math test is going to be always in front of me. I'm going to see that math score always in front of me. But if we get them outside, I just have this concept in my mind that says we teach them spatial awareness, that they can understand that that was something that happened. But there's great world out there. The future is wide. There's many paths that we can take. And I think getting outside is really helpful. But I think that kind of comes from parents modeling it. And right now, I think many times is when we come home from our, days at work, we go right inside and we go right to the computer, the TV or the what have you. And that's our world that we kind of live in. I think we need to model this better as adults. How do we kind of simply model that well for our kids? Because I do think it impacts their mental health.
I would concur, and I wonder how many toes we're stepping on today. So, if you see that listenership goes down after this episode, then let's not ever talk about this again. Okay? No, we have integrity here. We're going to talk about what's necessary. Yeah. No, it could be as simple as parking far away from the door of the store, choosing to park 30 slots up and walking further, and kicking a rock while you're doing so, or just walking and talking and looking up at the sun as long as you don't get hit by a car, and, looking at the clouds. It can be, a picnic in the backyard. It can be studying spelling words on the picnic bench if you live where, that's doable, seasonally. But yeah, getting outside and enjoying it. Nature, God created all of this for for his glory and for our joy. And so let's take advantage of that, and let's study the leaves and the worms and the butterflies. We need people who care about these kinds of things because it's God's world and he would want us to care about it. And I think it's joy. And for a lot of kids, they're not going to know that they even love it or resonate with it or want to pursue a career about it because their parents haven't modeled it for them. So yeah, they become who we say they are, and they often become what we do. And so let's pay attention to that and take it seriously.
There's a passage out of the book of Philippians that I was reminded about as we were talking today. It comes out of Philippians chapter 4, and I'm going to begin reading at verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. I love the way that Paul starts this section of scripture. He says rejoice, which in my mind, I think of just joying again, to re-engage being joyful. Now, I know that those who are experiencing anxiety, sometimes it just isn't possible. There's just a wall around us that we can't seem to break through. But I think what we talked about today in the podcast, this idea of getting out and doing other things, and in some ways reminding ourselves of different dynamics inside of the world, I think that that's really helpful. But I also think that these words that Paul has, coupled with that, actually are some important guiding steps for these moments to approach every situation, Paul says, with prayer and petition, and to be thankful, to find something worth being thankful for in those moments. And in that, taking those things that are causing anxiety to God. And I don't know about you, but I have experienced this peace that transcends all understanding. I can't put words to it. I can't diagram it. I can't logically follow the steps that brought me here. But I just know that putting these things into practice does guard my heart against evil things. It guards my mind against evil thoughts. And I think as we work with our kids in these moments to do that, and maybe even model that for them, I think that's giving them tools that are going to equip them to face really dark moments in their lives with joy. And as Paul says, with rejoicing, with joying again in those challenging times. I hope that this podcast has been an encouragement for you today. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Cook, my name is Wayne Stender, and I'm so thankful that you listened with us today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.